Hi, my name is Mark Wiggins, and I want to welcome you to my channel, WBMA, or What Burns My Ass. And the purpose of this channel is to tell you what burns my ass and guess that maybe it might burn your ass too as fellow Americans. Because there's a lot of things going on in our country right now, especially seeing that this is an electoral year. And we have the same two candidates that polarized us in the last election up for election again this time. And I really don't. I don't like either one of them, to be honest with you. I didn't vote for either one of them in the last election as well. I voted for Snoopy because back when I was a kid, we had Dolly Madison cakes, and they used Snoopy as their mascot. And they used to run him for president every 4 years. They'd put him in Uncle Sam hat, and they have Woodstock running behind him, waving a Snoopy for president banner. It was very cute, and I didn't like either one of them, and I didn't want to not vote, so I wrote in Snoopy. I don't know what cartoon character I'm going to put in this time, but I'll have to come up with something a little ingenious. Uh, you know, our country has lost faith in so many different factors in our government. For example, we've lost our faith in our news organizations. I mean, all you have to do is look at, you know, MSNBC. I'm so used to calling it MSDNC as a joke, and NBC and ABC. And most of our national news organizations are in the pockets of the Democrats. At least they very much lean Democrat. And you can always tell that by the way they tell their stories and their commentary in those stories. But of course, there are other channels that are pro-Republican, for example, Fox and Blaze and Newsmax. I'm sure there's several other news organizations that are all Republican. Um, I don't. I would like to find a channel that's moderate, but I think nobody would watch it. That may be my problem on this channel because I consider myself pretty much a moderate when it comes to a lot of things. I'm more conservative than moderate, I would say. I lean towards conservative moderate, maybe. But yeah, you don't see moderate news channels or even news channels that would just like to tell the truth, like they did back when Walter Cronkite was the big guy in the national news. You know, he mainly just told people the facts and kept his commentary out of it, which is the way it should be. You know, we've lost faith in our two-party system. That's mainly due to the news media because if you listen to MSDNC, as I call it, they constantly lie. Matter of fact, if you PolitiFact check them, they only tell the truth, the mostly true things, only 45% of the time. The other 55%, what they're saying, is almost entirely lies or mostly a lie, or liar pants on fire, as they put it. And that's pretty pathetic for a so-called news organization. I think there should be regulations against that because that does affect our political atmosphere in this country, and I think it does affect our elections. Like, for example, all the, like when MSNBC said, including NBC, said that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. And here's the thing about it: if you knew, if that same laptop came up and it was, one of Trump's children, do you know what the Democrats would be doing with that right now? It would be unbelievable. They would want to have the Trump children lynched in the front yard of the White House. I kid you not. There's no way the people that vigorously support Joe Biden would not want that if it turned out to be one of Trump's children, because the media divide has caused what people quote unquote call Trump derangement syndrome, and those are the people that think that Trump's going to become a dictator if he gets back in office, which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, that's the View talking, and that's channels like NBC and MSDNC. There's no truth to that. You have no faith in our federal government or our Constitution. And I also think a majority of the people that do support Donald Trump would not support him going past his one additional term. I think you're a little delusional. I don't. You're not giving our country enough credit to stand by its own rules, which they don't know now. So I almost can understand it. But it's not going to happen. You have to be realistic. Stop lying to yourself so you can be more upset. Stop trying to be a victim. You're not going to be a victim. If Donald Trump gets back in, there's going to be a lot of things that are good, and of course there's going to be a lot of things that are bad because that's just the way he is. He's definitely going to stick his foot in his mouth again for the next 4 years. He's going to say things that he shouldn't have said, and he's probably going to tick off a lot of people, which, you know, it's a trade-off because if you look at the way our economy is right now, I, I actually had somebody recently on Facebook tell me that the economy is still doing great. Look at the stock market and look at unemployment. That is absolutely no indication of really what's going on in this country. I mean, inflation is so bad right now, and the media's lying. There's where the media is lying to us again. They're saying it's only 9% inflation. Well, why is it the jar of coffee that I used to buy at Walmart? I buy instant Colombian coffee at Walmart, and it used to be $4.35 like 3 years ago. It is now $6.75. That is a lot more than 9%. Okay, and then here's the other thing that they're not saying too is these companies are greedy, because if you notice, ExxonMobil and all these other oil companies are making record profits. Well, that is price gouging and should be illegal. And of course, the stock people are getting their dividends, and of course, the CEOs and board of directors are getting their huge, massive salaries. It's ridiculous. I mean, there's no excuse for that. It's legalized mafia. And if you don't see it that way, you're probably a diehard Republican, because I mean that is my problem with Republicans. Most Republicans think that if you deregulate corporations, they will do the right thing automatically and they'll regulate themselves properly. No, because that doesn't take into factor the greed that goes on in this country. I mean, if you need to make more than $2, $3, $4 million a year, I'm sorry, but I don't think any board of directors or CEO should make it past a certain percentage of the company's annual income. I don't think that's fair, and I think that's causing the great divide, the 1%, and yet our Congress and our presidents and nobody's been able to do anything about that in the last how many decades. It's been the same since I've been for the last 50 years. It's kind of pathetic, and I think even some Republicans are feeling where I'm coming from, unless you're probably rich, and then you feel like I'm attacking you. I don't have a problem with rich people. I have a problem with exorbitantly rich people who didn't earn it themselves. Now, if you earn it yourselves, that is your money. I have no problem with you, and especially if you're a benefactor and an entrepreneur and you give to charities, more power to you. I think if you do the right thing, I don't care how rich you are. If you do the right thing, I don't have a problem with you. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen very often. Let's think. There's other issues that have divided this country, especially, and I think this could lose the Republicans' election if they don't change their mind or do anything about it, which is abortion, because that's what cost them the last election last November. There's supposed to be a so-called red wave, and that just didn't happen, and that's because of abortion. And here's the thing, okay? I'm conservative, and I'm also liberal, okay? I think. First of all, I don't think abortion has anything to do with women's health care. I mean, it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, if they have to give a woman an abortion to save her life, that's one thing. Okay, that's health care. But if you're a fertile woman and you let a man who stick his penis into your vagina and he's not using a condom and you have no protection, that is not the fault of the oncoming child. Therefore, the baby should not be killed because you didn't take responsibility for it. But here's the thing. They have, the day after pill. There's this mesoprofen or whatever that they're which is called the abortion pill. I think that should be legalized only within a certain amount of time of the baby's conception. Because if you had unprotected sex, it's your responsibility to make sure that you have your monthly cycle on time, and if you don't, you should probably go buy a stick and pee on it. If you don't do that, that is your fault, not the child's fault. And these late-term abortions are they're murder. And that's the part I side with the Republicans. I also don't think that birth control is a method. I don't believe that abortion is a method of birth control, meaning you can't get more than 2 in a lifetime unless there's a medical exception. Because it is not a method of birth control. If you don't take responsibility for your sexual behavior, that is not the fault of the child. Okay? And if you don't want the child after the second abortion, then you should have to give it up for adoption, which would really help a lot of people looking for a lot of good parents who want to adopt children the opportunity to do so. And I think that would be a great improvement in our country. All right, gun control. I mean, how many mass murders do we need? I am not pro take away guns. I'm not pro NRA, but there's a happy medium somewhere. My idea is kind of a modern idea, which is I think you should just open it up to any gun you want to own, including machine guns. I think you should be able to own a machine gun if you want to. I think you should be able to own any rifle that you want and any ammunition you want. Here's the difference. Every gun in this country needs to be registered by its serial number. And a title is issued to the owner with that gun. Now, that owner is responsible to know where that weapon is 365 days a year. And if a crime is committed using that gun and you didn't report the gun missing or stolen, you would probably be up for a crime as well because you're an irresponsible gun owner. But I think any responsible gun owner should be able to own any gun they want. Okay, which should make the NRA a little happy because, I mean, of course they want all the guns. That should make them happy. But here's the thing, okay, if you register the gun and it's in your name and it goes on your DMV license, which is going to help the local police departments because they can look at your license and see that you have a gun permit right on your driver's license. That's the way it should be, I think, nationwide. I think that should be a national law. And so, I think that's a good way to handle guns. And if you're a dealer or a distributor, there will be regulations set up for you. I mean, I can't spend the next hour going to every detail of how the gun should be regulated, but I still say that people should be able to own any gun they want. And at longest time, I was anti-gun. But here's the thing. I also believe, too, if you want to own anything other than a handgun or a shotgun, you need to have a mental evaluation. And if you don't, you just get to own a handgun or a shotgun. And even then, I mean, of course, with the mental evaluation, you have to pass. Of course, you don't want to handing out guns to Looney Tunes. But the thing about it is there's a happy medium somewhere with all this because we've lost so many people. And the fact that we've become so numb to mass murders is just beyond astonishing. I'm just baffled how people are not more traumatized by every time it happens. It's absolutely insane. But I'm going to go back to Republicans. So my problem with Republicans again is, like I said, they want to deregulate corporations, and like I said, they think that if you do that, they will always do the right thing. That is by far not true. Look at how many companies have failed. Okay, and you're paying these board of directors and CEOs these exorbitant amounts of money to make terrible decisions. How many corporations have we seen in the last, since I've been alive in the last 50 years, how many corporations have I seen go under due to stupid, bad management? Companies like Enron and Blockbuster and Sears and, I mean, the list could go on and on of how many major companies have failed over how many decades. Look at Kodak, for example. I'm from Rochester. I grew up in Rochester, New York. Kodak's a huge corporation there. And look what Kodak did. They invented digital photography. They botched it, gave it away, and then made bad decision after bad decision to stick to film as progressively everybody moved away from it. Didn't get into digital cameras so it was too late. Then they had to hire their competitors to make their cameras. And, Kodak is now a shadow of what it used to be due to the horrible decision makings by these board of directors and CEOs who get paid these exorbitant wages to make the right decisions. It's absolutely crazy how anybody believes that. And I don't understand how the Republicans should really change their stance on that. I don't see how they can stand behind a ridiculous policy such as deregulate. I think deregulating some of the government, some of that makes sense. I see that part of what they're saying. There are some over-regulations when it comes to a lot of things. But for the most part, deregulating is a bad idea. I'm on the Democrat side with that. Matter of fact, if you look at the last, during the Obama administration, when UAW had a huge strike during his administration, the UAW was actually willing to let the American auto industry go bankrupt in order to not give concessions to the three major manufacturers. Now, I mean, that's cutting off your nose. I mean, how bad of a decision is that? And here's the thing, the union should be a good thing. Here's the thing. If your union dues went towards, paying your checks when you went on strike, the money didn't go to these massive salaries of the people and the directors that are running the unions, I would say unions would be the best thing for the American public. But they're not. They're run as poorly as the big corporations, and it's greed. It's all greed at the top. The people at the bottom, the workers, the people that work hard every day or on these production lines, do not get the money that they deserve. Okay, they don't. Actually, some of them do. They get a good paycheck. Don't get me wrong. It's a lot of the UAW workers. But here's the thing: it's made it so hard to compete with foreign auto manufacturers that, what happened to the day when we called things the Cadillac of cars? Because the American car industry and the Cadillac was the epitome of cars around the world. And now, if you don't own a BMW or a Mercedes or a Lexus or an Italian car, like a Ferrari or a Porsche, a German car, another German car, if you don't own one of those, you're slumming. You're slumming. There's no prestige there, and that's kind of sad. I really do. And I think that is a lot to do with the bad decisions that the American auto manufacturers have made over the decades. There is no reason that the American auto industry cannot make a car as well or as reliable as any Japanese car. Okay? There's no reason for that. And that is what MAGA is. That is what Donald Trump is pushing. Make America great again. Bring back the jobs to this country. Make our cars the best in the world. Make our products in this world the best in the world. But instead, it's the greed of the deregulated corporations sending all our jobs to China, India, and Mexico that is causing our economy to be the way it is. And then the media is lying to you, saying that they cannot give these jobs away. Yes, they can. They just can't give them to the cheap wages that China, India, and Mexico do. So here's the thing. There's a balance out there. There was 2 periods in our country where our economy was at the sweet spot, where everything was in balance. The pay was imbalanced. The stock market was imbalanced. The real estate market was imbalanced. Interest rates were imbalanced. The banking industry was, making great loans, and people made enough money. Okay, and corporations actually respected their employees and gave them benefits. Matter of fact, General Motors built them neighborhoods outside of the plants and gave them daycare centers. We need to get back there again, because what they don't understand is when our economy does the best is when American houses make enough money to go on vacation or buy their food, gas, all their staples, pay their mortgage or their rent, buy a decent car, go on vacations, suck money away for their children's education, suck money away for their retirement. That is our balance. And where people make enough money that if they work hard at a job, they can sock away enough money. And if they want to become an entrepreneur, they take that saved money and they start their own business. That is how our economy should be working. That is what happens when everything is in balance. We've only had that twice in our country's history. Once after World War II, and that's because also half the force was not working. Women went back home and men did the wage earning. And I'm conservative. I think we should go back to that, but not necessarily. This is where I'm liberal. It could be the man who stays home and cleans the house, or it could be the woman. I have a tendency to lean towards men because I think children are more affectionate, more close to their mothers, but that's individual for every family. None of my business. Okay, but the point is that's where I'm conservative. I think we should go back to one household income making enough to support the house. Okay, and then here's the other thing: all the money's going to corporations again. Years ago, when people got older in their life and they retired and they passed away, their inheritance would go to their children. And many times those children would take that money and use to pull themselves up by the bootstraps and start a business. Of course, many of them, blew the money and did all the wrong things, of course. But hey, that's life. That's the way things happen. But all that money now is going to these reverse mortgages. It's going to nursing homes. It's going to medications, so that by the time the person passes away, who worked their entire life, none of that money or very little of that money ever shows up in their in the inheritance, of the people they set as their beneficiaries. That's a shame. See, this is another thing that is causing the American economy to they've taken away things that kept the wheels going in the right direction. They keep going in the right direction with the right amount of pay and the right amount of interest rates, the right amount of, it would go in a circle. But when you take those things away, the wheel either slows, stops, or goes in the other direction. And right now, it's my belief that it's going in the other direction. These are all things that this is what burns my ass, and it should burn your ass too. This is what MAGA is about. Okay, to me, this is what a MAGA is about, and I think this is why Donald Trump became successful under his first term, and this is why people are still voting for him, because they still have the same dream. People my age and even a little bit younger, and definitely older, all remember that period in our history when things were in balance, when things seemed to work the way they used to, the way they should have been working. People. Well, I think more people were happy back then. I mean, other than maybe the Vietnam War and a few other wars, but other than that, I think most people were much happier back in those times, because people could afford to live, and they didn't have to worry about their bank accounts draining, their cars being repossessed, not being able to put gas in their car, not being able to afford the medications that they need because they have diabetes or anything like that. That is making America great again. That is MAGA. Maybe not necessarily that may or not be entirely what Donald Trump is promoting, but that to me is MAGA. Okay, we're also these corporations are sending jobs to foreign countries like India and Mexico and China to save this money so that they can live on their $40 million a year paycheck. I don't think any corporation should pay a board of directors or CEO anywhere near that kind of salary, because to me, that's just legalized extortion or legalized profiteering or whatever you want to call it. I mean, if it's your business and you earned it, that's you. That's none of my business. But if you're taking it past a certain percentage of the company's take, to me, you're stealing. You really are. Nobody should have to need more than $1 million or $2 million a year. I don't think that, honestly, I don't think that should be legal. I know if you're to say anything different, people are going to say that's socialism, but there's a balance out there that can be achieved. It's happened. But we're never going to see it because we have two parties, and the Republicans are all the way to the right, and the Republicans and the Democrats are all the way to the left. And it's always swinging the pendulum from one extreme to the other extreme, from one extreme to the other extreme. And each president spends millions of dollars on doing what the prior president did. And it's just a vicious cycle. And until we get a strong third party, I don't believe that's ever going to change. I think that's going to rein in the two other parties that are out there. And, that would change a lot in the American society. I think people would be happier. I think people would earn enough money to live on. I think the economic wheel would be heading back in the right direction and picking up speed if we did more things like that, instead of, like I said, moving. And here's the thing. Now we got BRICS going on. This is another thing that our government is either ignoring or I don't believe that they're doing much about. BRICS is an agreement between Brazil, Russia, India, China, and Saudi Arabia. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to knock the American dollar off the world standard currency. And we're sitting back and watching them do it while Putin is attacking Ukraine. All right. And yet there's not more up in arms. Why isn't Biden going against those countries? Let me tell you something. America is such an economic power. Here, use the power that we have. I hope Donald Trump hears this. I hope he takes this idea. Or if Joe Biden remains in office, I hope he does the same thing. You threaten them. You say, listen, Brazil, listen, China, you listen, Mexico, you listen, India. We will take our industry to other countries other than you. We will band together with countries like Canada and Australia and England and France and Germany and Italy, and we'll make our own little conglomerate, and we'll pull our money and we'll just cut you guys out. You'd be amazed how fast that would stop right now. Because right now we're trying to move all the industry from China because India is offering us very cheap, labor. But here's the thing: have you called Amazon lately? Have you called? I called Samsung customer service lately. It's all in India. Now these are multi-billion-dollar companies that could afford to put a customer service office here in this country. And of course, the media lies and says that there's no Americans that would take those jobs. Yes, they would if you paid them a living wage. So, like I said, you could sock money away for this and this and that. Yes, people would take that job. They most certainly would. But you want to increase your multi-billion dollars by sending those jobs to India. And if you talk to some of these customer service agents from India, rude. I mean, not all of them. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to stereotype, India people, but also too. I mean, we should also pressure India to knocking out the scam telemarketing and the scams that are being run out of India, saying, listen, if you guys don't crack down on these and stop having them call around the world, we're going to take our companies elsewhere. You'd be surprised how fast those offices would be closed because money talks. And I also say the same thing about Mexico. Why is Ford and all these other companies moving their plants down to Mexico instead of giving the Americans the jobs? I think it's an absolute 100% lie by the media and the corporations saying that Americans don't want these jobs. They would if you paid them a wage they could survive on. Let's stop lying, okay? I mean, if you want another perfect example of, so here, I know I've kind of ragged on the Republicans a little bit. Let me rag on the Democrats. California is an absolute disaster. And so is our immigration stance, okay? Because first of all, California is a sanctuary state. So as soon as you come across the border, you get food stamps, you get free medical care, your kids go to school, on and on. Well, you can't do that. As nice as it is, that entices people to come over for all the wrong reasons. Okay? And a lot of them are just here for the free stuff. Not all of them, don't get me wrong, and do not misquote me. There's quite a few Mexicans that I know and are my friends, or one of the hardest working people I've ever met in my life. To me, there always seems to be an extreme between the Mexicans I met. Either the ones that want a siesta all day and the ones that just work 24 hours a day. There's always, to me, there always seems to be two extremes on the Latinos that I meet. But anyways, we got to stop this. We got to bring the jobs back to this country, and we got to stop giving money to Mexico until they stop the illegal immigration. They stop the cartels, okay? Because the money pouring to that country in legal jobs, I think, would be a massive incentive for Mexico to crack down on these drug cartels, and also the people trafficking, the drug trafficking. I mean, it's just insane. If money talks, and I'll tell you right now, if we decided to pull all our plants out of Mexico to make them regulate their own government and police their own social issues, I am pretty sure that they'd stop it very quickly. So, anyways, I mean, I'm here. I'm trying to solve all the world's problems, because things like that burn my ass. That we just people that don't. Another example. Here's another thing. I don't know if most people realize it. How many companies in this country that you think are American are no longer American. Pizza Hut's not American. KFC is not American. Taco Bell's not American. Budweiser's not American. Frigidaire's not American. Chrysler's not American anymore. It's owned by an Italian company. I mean, how we've sold our souls in this country. We've literally sold our souls. And most of the American people have no idea what's going on around them. Okay? That's why this election is so important. And also, it, it's just something that needs to be dealt with. We can't keep letting it go on this way. I mean, the American people are just, we're tired of it. We're tired of being pushed around. We're tired of being overlooked. We're tired of being lied to by the news media. We're tired about the judicial system. I mean, I took several people to court over the last how many years. And what happened to Donald Trump was a sham, like I said earlier. But, I mean, I've taken people to court for genuine reasons, and there's no reason I didn't win other than I did not have an attorney. And see, our judicial system has lost track of the American people. It's separated itself. Most Americans do not have access to justice, no matter how bad usually something happens to them, unless it ends up in the media, of course, and then people rush to their aid. But how many people in this country have sued other people and lost just because they didn't have an attorney? What happened then was terrible, but because they didn't have an attorney, they lost. I'm an American soldier. I volunteered to die for this country. I volunteered to die for a country where I had rights. We don't have any rights in this country. I don't see how, like I said, when I volunteered and I went to Germany and I volunteered for the Resident Justice Department, I did that because I was proud to be an American, which is a country that upheld my rights. And if I went to court, I could get justice. That is no longer the case. That needs to end now. I know I'm not the only American who feels this way. And these are the things that are causing, I think, a lot of the mass murders. Because people know that their only recourse for any kind of justice, because if they went to court and they did things the legal way, they wouldn't get anywhere anyways. So if you have a little bit of a screw loose, you use that as an excuse to, do these insane mass murders and whatever. I fortunately don't own a gun, and nor am I. I'm completely sane. But so don't worry if anybody's listening to this, to my WBMA channel. I have absolutely no desire to do anything to anybody. Even though I am quite disappointed, like I think a lot of Americans are with this country, the way things are going. I'm not happy again with the political choices we have. I think those things should burn your ass as much as they do mine. And I think that we can do better. And again, that's what MAGA is. Or at least that's what MAGA should be. Maybe not necessarily what Donald Trump is promoting, but that's what let's make America great again. Let's make it so that people can make a living wage, who can pay their bills and sock money for retirement and school and all the things that we should be able to do. And then, like the great American dream, if you make that kind of wage and you save your own money, you become your own boss. You can do that in this country. It used to be, that was the American dream. That's what, when people came to Ellis Island, they saw the Statue of Liberty holding up her torch. That's what people dreamt of. Unfortunately, though, I mean, it seems, though, that most foreigners have a better grasp at that than most Americans. But I think that has a lot to do with the way our country raises our children. And that's a whole different topic for what burns my ass. Anyways, I hope you like my channel. I hope you like this video. I hope that you agree with most of what I said. I hope maybe that if some of those things burn your ass, that you'll let me know that they did. And you'll do so by hitting that like or subscribe button. Also hit the notification button. I appreciate all you listeners. And I hope that you remember that what burns my ass probably burns your ass too. Have a good one.